Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass. And speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Bill 250 is an exciting new idea that comes to us from Europe called balcony solar. There's over 1 million of these panels that have been used by consumers in Germany. There's only one state in America so far that's authorized them. That's Utah. And Virginia, I hope, will be the second. You're going to see it actually pass in a whole bunch more states this year, I think. But the idea is to allow people to basically get a small solar panel, not a whole array, and to be able to hang it outside their house or their trailer or their business or whatever, and plug it into a regular old household utility outlet so they can mitigate some of the cost of electricity by producing some on their own. Madam President, if there ever was an affordability bill, this is it, because these things pay for themselves and allows people to save money on their electricity, especially if you live in an area where electricity is expensive. You get yourself a solar panel, plug it into your house. You don't need to go out and get a permit, waste a bunch of time with the government trying to get permission to do it. This gives it to you. And so, Madam President, I would hope we would let Virginians generate their own electricity easily, efficiently, affordably, and save themselves some money, and I hope we could pass this bill.
The senior senator from Virginia Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. Will the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax yield for a question?
Senator, will you yield?
I'll yield.
The senator from Virginia Beach has the floor.
Madam President, I asked the gentleman, if the power goes out, what's going to prevent these devices from backfeeding into the system? Now, I know in the substitute bill, it says that there's a requirement for the individual to have some kind of a device installed to prevent the backfeeding, but it doesn't go into specifics. So what specifically and how will it work to prevent backfeeding into the system when the power goes out?
Senator from Eastern Fairfax.
Madam President, I would say that, first of all, while my grandfather was the electrician who wired the Star in Roanoke in 1948, my electrical skills not quite as good as his were. But I'll note that the bill on lines 96 and 97 requires the device to have a feature that prevents it from affecting the electrical system of a building during a power outage. And so it cannot be sold in Virginia if it doesn't have that kind of a feature on it. The technical specifications of how it works, I don't know. But I would submit that given that 1 million of these have been installed in Germany, I would think that they were designed in a way not to cause those kinds of problems.
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I'm very familiar with these devices. I'm very familiar with the ones that have the solar panels and the battery backup. So the solar panel charges the battery backup, and when the power goes out, that battery backup actually powers the house. The problem is if you don't walk over to the fuse panel and switch the master switch to off, then it backfeeds the system. So if there's in an apartment building, if you have one of these and it's charging a battery and it's feeding into your house system, the only way to stop this from getting out onto the grid or out onto the wires where you'll have linemen trying to fix where there's a power outage is to physically walk over and shut your power to off, which is the main feed. There are automated ways to do this. There's automatic ways to do this, but they're very expensive. They require an electrician to wire it into the panel, which, again, most apartment buildings and most rental units will not allow. So the only way to physically do that is you have to physically walk over, put the breaker from on to off, and then let the device go on. Otherwise, you're going to backfeed into the grid. And, Madam President, I'm going to vote against this because I've read this. I've talked to 2 of the utilities, and both of the utilities said that they're still trying to figure this out. They haven't found a fix on this. I think this is one that once this happens and one of our linemen gets shocked and killed, we're going to have a problem. So I'm going to vote no on this to slow this down. And if this gets corrected before it comes back to us, I'm happy to vote yes. But right now, after talking to 2 of the utilities, they don't have a solution on the best way to do this or how to do this. Thank you.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 250 pass? All in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 7, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 30, no 7, Rule 36-1. Senate Bill 250 passes.
Senate Bill